Hey, welcome back to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. I have been sick all day long. And yet I found something really important and cool that I really have to share with you. So I'm going to do a chess video. Sorry if I'm not as enthusiastic as I normally am. I'm really not feeling good right now. But this is an important chess lesson. It's a fun one too. This is in Artur Yusupov, again, Build Up Your Chess, the Fundamentals, book one of his, I think it's like 9-10 book series. This is on the idea of gambits. Oh, I have been literally asleep for the last 20 hours. I just woke up about an hour ago and I finally decided I have to get something to eat. I'm trying to give you guys as much Christmas chess as I can, because the snows are coming and I have to plow snow. So now this was a game that was played by Neistat and someone else. It was a simultaneous game played in 1950. Yusupov uses this for a really interesting look at gambit play. And what is a gambit? A gambit is an opening in which one player offers to give up material, usually a pawn, sometimes a piece or more, in the expectation of gaining a positional advantage. What Yusupov does in this wonderful lesson is he shows us some ideas. He gives us the information on how to play a gambit. And the one main theme to a gambit is don't do it. I'm kidding, I promise. I love playing gambits. Here's the gambit. Bam, d4. He wants black to take the pawn. He said, absolutely, take the pawn. White does well. Here's the idea. If you're going to play gambits, your approach to it needs to be that you develop your pieces very rapidly. You don't Mickey Mouse around with pawn moves at all. And he ought to try to open up the game. That is, and when they say open up the game, don't leave pawns in the center. No pawn chains. You want this board open with very few pawns in it so that your pieces can zing around and do attacks. If you're playing the gambit. In this instance, White's playing the gambit. So we're going to hopefully, if White plays this right, see speedily development of his pieces, and he will open up this board so that there's very few pieces in the center to block his motion. That's basically the idea of a gambit. And then he has sacrificed a pawn. When you play gambits, there may very well be piece sacrifices also. We shall see. We shall see. So now, black did take the gambit, but I want to show you something. Hopefully I can remember this board position. I am feeling so rocky right now. With this gambit, that is not so good. You don't, if you were black, taking that pawn does not work very good for you. Because, why is that? Oh, yeah, of course. Because then the pawn takes the pawn. And now do you see what the threat is? White's threat from this point on is Queen d5. Now Yusupov says that White could go ahead and take the pawn first, as far as that goes. And then if the king takes the pawn, if the king takes the bishop, then the queen can come up here and go check and get the knight back. And then the queen has a very good central position. So in this particular gambit, it's not a good idea for black to take the pawn there. Rather, he should take the pawn here, which is what he did. But I thought that was kind of an interesting situation in the center with your queen. Once you have a chance to open up that aisle with your bishop on the c4, and it can work the other direction too from the f4, then you've got some real quick combination possibilities, right? So you want to, I mean, if you're going to accept a gambit, and there's nothing wrong with accepting a gambit, you automatically know that your opponent, if he knows what he's doing, is going to do a quick development of his pieces, so you don't get a monkey around much either. And you also realize that your opponent may very well be willing to sacrifice a piece in order to get further development and positional play, right? Just because a player sacrifices his piece does not mean you're winning. Position is so important, right? So let's keep going here. He accepted the gambit, and now the knight comes to f3. And now queen takes d4 doesn't fit here. And the reason why, okay, so he's moved out. So now if you go ahead and you think, aha, I'll get my pawn back with the queen. No, because now you're giving black a chance to speedily develop, and you as white are losing tempo. Now you have to move the queen again, right? So if you're going to play a gambit, try hard not to get super greedy if you're going to use your queen, because the key to gambit play is you definitely want to speedily get all of your pieces out, meaning your bishops, your knights, your rooks. The queen will come more or less naturally once you get going, but you really don't want to give black a chance to get a speedy development. That makes sense? It makes sense. Just agree with me, it makes sense. Once white pulls out the knight here, now the knight will take e4. Now it's a little bit different situation because white doesn't have a pawn here to take. So this is a really interesting idea here. And the queen does take the d4 now instead of the step before, simply because the situation is different and it's much better. Now you're good to use the queen. Isn't that interesting how one move earlier and it's not at all good. Now it's perfectly fine. And why? Because now if he chases the queen, of course you take the knight and go check, right? So you know he's not going to develop. This is helping white develop more speedily, and black is still going to try to, and eventually, you know, eventually they will catch up with each other in development. So once you develop, you need to have a game plan to put your development to immediate use quick. That's the ideal. Don't just hurry up and develop and then say, oh, well, now I guess I'll start moving some pawns. No. No, develop with the goal in mind, whatever that goal is. If you want to take over the queen side, then develop to take over the queen side. Whatever it is you decide. Let's see what white decides to do. Oh, I am really not feeling good. I'm sorry. I'm going to be a snot nose tonight. Sorry. Oh. Okay, queen take d4. And now, oh, knight came back to f6. Yeah. Now, and that, what this does, you can't do this. Right, you can see that. You can't do that because the bishop simply, or the queen comes to here and goes check. Yeah, no, you can't do that. So So he loses a tempo. He's moving his knight twice. Notice how many pieces white has out compared to black. This is the theme in gambit play. The one who did the gambit, the white, is really going to want to put his pieces out there quick. And he's doing that very well, actually. And he's doing it in the center also, which is also really well. Yeah? Hopefully I won't lose my place here. If I do, I apologize. Okay, now bishop g5. Another piece in the middle of the soup. And bishop to e7, of course. And now knight c3. Rapid deployment. Just one move each piece. Get going. Now, observe something interesting here. That, oh, hold on. I'm one move ahead of the step shine. He says white develops his pieces very quickly. Black already has to play very carefully, and he must endeavor to complete his development with appropriate haste. It is important for black to keep getting pieces out. Really. Watch what he does. He castles. Now, castling is not a negative. In this instance, it is not, now, I should say, is not the time to castle. And why? Because here come his troops, you know. Get the king to safety. That's what black was thinking. I understand that. But in this instance, what this does now is it shows white where he's going to attack. The king's side. Right? You've heard me say in previous videos, you can't just attack the king anytime you want to attack the king. The board has to indicate whether you can attack the king or not. This board now is indicating, kingside attack. Absolutely. Fundamentally so, yes. You've got the better development. And now you know where his king's at. So rather than castling, he would have been better bringing out his bishop, knight, and so on and so forth at this point. He castled just a little bit too early, is what Yusupov was saying. And it's a natural move. That's the crazy thing. It really is. But not at this point. So he would have been better. Black would have been far better. Instead of castling, hold on, I'll put this back. Black would have been far better to go here and then here than castling at this point, according to Yusupov. So that really would have been better because it helps him close down the diagonals of the bishops. As it is, white now knows where to go. So here we go. Yeah, you can see, isn't that remarkable? You can truly see the difference in the strength of the defense. And this, had he been able to get to that point. You can just see the difference, can't you? Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that would have been way, way better. It opened up his bishop to come out, and it gave his knight a chance to come into this game. And it closes down white's bishop. Sincerely, that would have been better. Isn't that fun to see stuff like that? I think it's always so fun just to see. I mean, there's only a billion little nuances in chess anyway, right? It's fun to see one or two of them every game. Oh, sorry I'm such a wreck tonight. I'm really trying to give you a good lesson here. Okay. So, well, he castled, and so now white castles. Truly, yeah, let's get your rooks into this. Because now it's good for white to castle because he connects his rooks. He is so far, he is past black's development, and now his rooks are connected. It's a much better position for white now, isn't it? Yeah. So black, you gotta hustle if you're black. And now, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. It does develop a piece, and it does make him move his queen again. But remember, black castled already, right? White knows where to go. That's still inferior to getting the pawns up. That's interesting how that works, isn't it? So yeah, he does get another piece out, and yeah, he does give a kick at the queen, but that just puts the queen in a much stronger position. Now, I've given you the hint. Truly, white wants to attack the castled king. So where's your best spot for the queen? See how black's move actually helped white get into his strategic place faster. You just come right over to here. Yeah, absolutely. That's where you want to go anyway, simply because of the nature of both of your absolutely fabulous bishops. Yeah. So black just look at the difference in the position. Got the open file. You've got the rook into play, the bishop, the knight, the bishop, the queen. And on defense, you essentially only have, you only have and then not much, a knight and a bishop. Not much. So, this is going to get tough. And now he does open up for his bishop with d6. And now bishop d3. Now, you've got your force over here. You've got your force over here. You've got your force pointing to here, but bringing it to here hits this pawn. What you're going to do, the pressure becomes so great. Now this is the only piece stopping white from checkmating at this point with this move down on the bishop, right? So you know what white is threatening. He's going to take the knight on f6, isn't he? Fundamentally so. Yeah. That's a tough position for black at this point. It's pretty rough. So, and the h6 to try to stop. Two things justify white's next move. Okay? I say justify. He will have compensation. I gave it away. He's going to sacrifice the bishop. Fundamentally so. Absolutely. And the reason why is because he is better developed and the board is open so that he can continue going after black's king, because black did not do enough good with his pawn. He just hasn't opened right. So white says, heavens yes, I'll take the pawn. Absolutely. That opens up the king. And he's got enough of an open board, and he has enough of a development. You can see how his gambit here in the center with that pawn opened up the board. It also gave him an opportunity to get better developed, because he was actually able to make black move that knight twice. That gave white an extra move. He made an inferior move here, so yes, he has another piece developed, but he's still behind in tempo because of the positioning of the bishops and the queen. This is a tough game for black. I've got news for you. He's not going to win. We can see that already, though. But it's fun. It's instructive to see how gambit play works when you recognize you want to attempt as best you can to leave the board open. Now look at that board. It is open, isn't it? There are no central pawns in here anywhere hardly cluttering up the board, so that he can use his long-range pieces. If he needs to get his rook in here, he can use his long-range pieces. He can use his long-range pieces. So the board is open, which in gambit play is really what you want, and he's still better developed than black, and we're definitely in the middle game by now. So those two factors, he left the board open, and he's able to develop better. And that is why it makes sense. It's almost a logical extension when you put one Lego over here and you grab another Lego over here and put it over here. 1 + 1 = 2. 1, the open board. 1, the speedy development, equals 2, a spectacular attack against the black king. Fun how that works, isn't it? It's real interesting how that... So, like I say, there's a billion things to learn in chess, but this is one of the cool ones. It's all cool. It really is. So, now, and then the queen will take h6, of course. Yeah, quit talking and show the game, dude. Oh, my head's just thumping a mile a minute. Queen takes h6, and now knight b4. That's a question mark. True, black is trying to get counterplay. He's trying to, but it's a one-piece, disruption. He's not developed enough or coordinated enough. His pawns are still in his bishop's way. His bishop's not developed. His queen's not out here. And the king is way open. So he's just a little bit too late here, is what this comes down to. Darn it, he really does want to swap that bishop. But it's not... Overall, it's not going to help him as much as he wants, because remember, whenever you're doing a kingside attack, if you can get your queen or rook or whatever, the knight on g5 always covers the 2-7 squares, the h7 or the f7, and that is just a brutal combination. Now black has to scramble. He's in trouble. He's not going, this, again, you can see it didn't do a thing for him. This does everything for white, right? And let's see this. Let's see how it works out. He does take d3 check. And now, do you take with the pawn or do you take with the rook? You should easily be able to answer that question. Sincerely. If you can't answer that question, you need to ask yourself, why did I miss this? Always with the rook. Not because you expose your king, but because you have the file. And you have it this way. So the pawn... The pawn doesn't do anything for you, right? You can see that. The rook is much, much better. So the rook takes, and let me see here. We're getting close. Rook takes d3. Okay, now he's got a chance to help protect this square here. But there's something really interesting that happens. Rook to g3, and if black's not careful, he's going to have a discovered check on his hand with that rook. Now that it's on g3, all he has to do is white move the knight, and there's a discovered check. And if white moves the knight in the right place, it's a wicked discovered check, as you can see, right? Yeah, this is getting brutal fast. All because he had superior development and an open board. His own pawns were not in his way. That's a point that Yusupov makes several times in this game, so I will. It makes perfect sense. And now Let's see, bishop g6, and of course knight e6. I say of course, I played through the game, so that was easy to see. But at this point, black resigned. You can't take it because of the rook, right? And you can't move your queen because of the mate on g7. So black has to give up his queen. What a move, huh? From there to there. He was able to get his rook up and over. Again, dominating the file. His queen's in there. That's a beautiful little illustration. So, I have got to go back to bed. I'm not feeling very good at all. Thank you for watching my chess videos. I appreciate all your enthusiasm and support. Be good, do well, have fun. Thanks for watching. Get ready for Christmas. It's on the way. And before you know it, we'll have New Year's too. And I will get better so that I can see you in the next Backyard Professor Chess video.